What happens if you're walking with the Lord? You're completely at peace with Him. You have everything in your house in order. There's nothing to accuse you of. And yet still, like Job, you find yourself in a scenario where you're experiencing extraordinary suffering. Because if you are to believe that God is sovereign, meaning that He is in absolute control of everything that happens in the earth, then that means that God is allowing this thing to happen to you. Because without His permission, no calamity can befall a person. And we know this. How do we know this? Because Satan has to ask permission every time he sought to test a believer in Scripture, Old Testament and New Testament. So the question is, how can God say that He loves me if He's allowing me to go through suffering that is not for the purpose of developing me further? It's not for the purpose of preparing me in some way to walk or to conform to a greater level of the image of Christ. If the suffering is not either connected to a consequence that is necessary for me to learn, or to a set of circumstances and pressures that He's created in order to grow me further, then what other possible reason could there be for Him to allow me to experience suffering? And the answer is this: there are only two positions that a human being can exist in. One of those positions is under the law. That means that you are living by a ledger where every good thing that you have done is imputed to you, and every bad thing that you have done is imputed to you. Which means every bad thing that you've done, you must bear every consequence that comes with that, and every good thing that you have done, you must receive every reward that is deserved. Or you are under grace in the relationship of sonship to God, which means that you are being disciplined like a son and raised up. But more specifically, you also are intimately connected to the purposes of God as a part of His family. So if you are experiencing suffering, and that suffering is not being used in order to prepare you in some way or to discipline you through the utilization of consequences, then the only other possibility is that you are in some way, through the suffering that you are experiencing, setting up a scenario for God to demonstrate His glory, either for the benefit of yourself and the increase in faith that will come from it, or for the benefit of others. This is what it means to share in the sufferings of Christ. Sharing in His suffering is sharing in His purpose. Christ has a purpose in the earth to demonstrate His power and His glory so that people will turn from their sins and return to God. And so, like Job, sometimes we will share in the Messiah's suffering as being vessels to demonstrate that our character is greater than our circumstances. This is a big part of what the Messiah's life demonstrated, was that His character was greater than His circumstances, because He, being God, had at any moment the ability of calling down angels and smiting every single human being on the earth. While hanging on the cross, He had all power and all authority accessible to Him as the Son of God. He could have called it down and would have been rightly so in doing. And yet, by the great character, the great humility of God, He remained on the cross and He finished His mission, defying the circumstances and demonstrating the awesome character of God before humanity, saying that I do not have to stoop to the moment. I do not have to reach out, claim power, and harm others when they are harming me, but rather I can bear up under it for the benefit of those who are harming me. And so sometimes God allows us to share in that purpose of demonstrating God's character in the earth by bearing up under difficulty and not conforming or reverting back to worldliness, but rather holding on to faith and trusting God, even if unto death, in order to demonstrate and magnify the character and power and presence of God so that more could be saved. That means that any suffering that you are experiencing in your life, it is not a result of consequences. It could be a result of the Lord allowing you to experience a consequence for an action, but for the purpose of training, for the purpose of raising you up and equipping you with the character that is necessary to rule. Because Scripture says that we will not only rule the cosmos with Christ, but we will judge angels. But to do that, we must also share in the character of Christ. And sometimes when we have reached a place in life where we are mature, the Lord will allow us to experience difficult circumstances, not for the growth of our character, but for the benefit of others observing God's character under pressure, so that they can see the difference between the power of God and the power of Satan. The power of God that places the benefit of others over the experience of self, versus the power of Satan that places the benefit of self over the hope of others. It is beyond important that we understand these things, because suffering will attend this life. Jesus said that trouble will come. We will experience trouble in this life. Paul says to put on the full armor of God so that when the evil day comes, when, not if, when the evil day comes. And if we don't understand this, when the evil day comes, when the trouble comes, Satan will use it to either accuse you of your own failings and lead you into a sense of condemnation, which takes you out from under the realization of the impossible love that God has for you. Or he will use it to accuse God, to drive you away from the one person who is capable of actually healing you after the evil day has finished its work. There are only two reasons that we suffer in this life: to develop the character of Christ or to demonstrate it.